Today is Thursday, August 27, 2026, coming up on Roland Martin Unfiltered, streaming live on the Black Star Network. The Lawyers Committee for Civil Rights Under Law, they are leading a lawsuit to block a new executive order from Donald Trump that will require the U.S. Postal Service to determine who gets mail-in ballots. That executive order will have stricter requirements on mail-in ballots, and it could impact 48 million Americans. I spoke with Democratic Leader Hakeem Jeffries about that new rule, plus Democratic investments in the black community, plus his controversial meeting with Jared Kushner. The swamp, straight white American male preference may be the obstacle that will keep the Democrats from victory this November. The founder of Democracy in Color, Steve Phillips, will explain. A Mississippi civil rights group says it has proof that the death of a black man in 2010 was in fact a lynching. The founder of JULIAN will be here to discuss the Frederick Jermaine Carter case. Plus, we'll talk to some alphas in Colombia who are spearheading earthquake relief efforts there. Also, lots to break down. We talk about this election and how important it is that we turn out in huge numbers. It's time to bring the funk on Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. Let's go.
He's got it. Whatever the miss, he's on it. Whatever it is, he's got the scoop, the fact, the find. And when it breaks, he's right on time and it's rolling. Best believe he's knowing. Putting it down from sports to news to politics. With entertainment just for kicks, he's rolling. It's on go, roll, y'all. It's Roland Martin, yeah. Rolling with Roland now. He's funk, he's fresh, he's real, the best, you know he's Roland Martin now.
A group of civil rights organizations have filed a lawsuit against Donald Trump and his administration regarding his executive order dealing with mail-in ballots. The executive order calls for the Postal Service to actually pull data. Again, the Postal Service to pull data. Now, they're going to create their own voter registration. They create their own voter registration, okay, which is a problem. Now, the Supreme Court is allowing it to move forward, but for a short period of time. They have not made an official ruling because they really said that states have filed lawsuit too early. That makes no sense as well. The new regulation, again, threatens to disrupt mail voting, override state election laws, and particularly disenfranchise millions of eligible voters. This includes black voters. I want to bring in my panel right now, Lisa Durden, social justice and journalist out of New Jersey, Dr. Zachary Kirk, educator and content creator out of Atlanta. Zach, I want to start with you. Listen, this is how you fight back. A little bit later, we're going to hear from House Democratic Leader Hakeem Jeffries. He talked about what their plan is to also fight this. This is where we always talk about the battle is taking place in the courts and when it comes to our voting rights. And again, Republicans, what they desire, Zachary, they want to limit who votes. They've always said that. I'm going to play a bite from Paul Weyrich, who in 1980 made that particular point. This has always been their game. Trump wants to rig the election because they know the numbers do not favor them. Zachary? That's for you. Zachary, you on mute. Okay, I don't know what's going on while I'm not hearing Zachary. Lisa, go to you first.
Listen, anybody who says their vote don't count sounds like an entire fool. For if your vote didn't count, this whack-ass administration would not be trying to pull these Gestapo moves to put illegal restrictions on mail-in voting. Why people aren't getting that, it is wearing me the hell out. You know, I have a friend in Atlanta, no doubt, who didn't vote the last election in November, 2 years ago. She did not vote. And then after everything went haywire, she starts crying like a Jeffrey Osborne song, baby woo, 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 because what? She couldn't pay her mortgage. She didn't have a job. She couldn't buy food. And now she's asking where the beef is. So I kindly told her to shut the hell up because she didn't vote. And did. I sure did. So this is another example of that. I'm going to call her when I leave the show and say, girl, do you hear me now? So this is the problem. We don't want to believe the facts right in front of our eyeballs. And part of it is us showing that we're just sitting back saying, oh, it doesn't count. So then he can do these types of things with impunity. And also, people are ignoring the fact that he's the thief. He's the one that tried to steal the vote. He's the one that asked for 10,000 votes in the election in 2020. He's the one that's the thief. I know. So you can steal the vote and then claim to be the victim. I'm not getting it. I'm not getting it.
It's what their whole goal is and their strategy. Do we have Zachary? All right, Zachary. Again, people need to understand, they're going to cheat. They're going to do everything they can to steal the election. Donald Trump spends all his time talking about, stop the steal 2020. No, they lost. They want to steal the election because they are scared to death of losing and not having power.
Roland, this is something that I have been tracking since 2018 when the then Georgia Secretary of State, Brian Kemp, wormed his way, snaked his way into the governor's office in Georgia and has maintained power and control and helped write the Republican playbook on how to steal elections. And they have been perfecting this and perfecting this and perfecting this, marginalizing voters, disenfranchising voters, and doing shit like this within the legal bounds of law to take away our right and our voices and our votes. So thankful to see some major names, some power players on this list. People, again, we see the president of the NAACP. We have the leaders of Black Voters Matters coming together. We have our Black media led by you coming together to highlight this. We have got to make sure that Black people in America know what is happening and they are prepared to fight against it with everything that we've got. We're going to vote. We're going to show up, but we've got to be prepared for these types of bumps in the roads, these types of obstacles, and these types of burdens. Black people watching this show, our entire audience, we are going to have to go early. I'm talking about early in mass numbers and numbers they can't overturn and get out the vote when they open up early voting. We have got to flood the zone. We have got to get every single person that we know, every friend, every family, every distant connection to be registered to vote by the deadline, to show up to vote and early vote and to overwhelm the system, because this might be our very last chance to do so, especially with the bullshit Supreme Court that we have sitting there for the next 30 years.
So I need people to understand, Republicans are scared to death. Last night on Laura Ingram's show, they were sitting here, oh my God. They're going to do everything to attack. They're going to call Democrats socialists. They're going to call them communists. They're going to call them pedophiles, child molesters, because they are afraid of losing. Listen to this.
I disagree with the conventional wisdom. I think you have to hammer them every single day until November. Cannot wait. These consultants drive me nuts, okay? They fly around in private jets. They collect a huge amount of money. And I think they're lying to these Republican candidates. This is going to be a brutal cycle. Republicans might pull it out. We all hope they do. But they have got to hammer that they're coming for your money, your gas-powered car, your air conditioner, everything you love, your private health insurance, and they're going to take it from you. Period. End of story. I'm sorry I'm getting mad, but why am I guess I should be a consultant or something. I don't know. Go ahead, Adam.
Okay. Laura, there's a reason she's saying it's going to be brutal. Because they screwed up. Donald Trump has destroyed the economy. President Joe Biden, Vice President Kamala Harris handed him an economy that actually had survived COVID. Inflation was at 3%. It's now higher. He has wrecked this economy. And so Laura Ingraham doesn't want to be honest with her audience. It's been Republican policies. We've lost jobs, manufacturing, massive number of jobs that have gone down. All this so-called investment is all a ruse. Corruption is at its highest point. Donald Trump is raping and pillaging this country. And so Fox News is scared to death that Republicans are going to lose power, and they're going to do all they can to cheat because they know they cannot win on the facts. They have wrecked this country.
Mm-hmm. I feel like I want to agree with her. Let's hammer them. You said hammer, girl? Hey, Blondie, you said hammer? Democrats, let's hammer them with our votes. Get out there and hammer them. I mentioned last week that we should see voting like we did when Obama ran for office the first time in 2008 or 9. We saw seas of people out there, you know, with kissing their babies, and they had their dogs, and they had their pot of soup online, and they had scarves on, they had suits on. Everybody and their mama and their daddy and their sister too was on the line trying to vote. They were trying to, oh, you just turned 18 today. Vote now. We were all up in there. Yeah, let's hammer them with our vote. So we are not going to sit here and go to sleep because she's talking about, oh, they're going to take everything. Let's flip that. They're going to take everything from us. They're going to take food away from us. They're going to take education away from us. They're going to take health care away from us. They're going to take our livelihoods away from us. No more DEI, which really basically I should just get the job based on my, abilities, but they didn't want to do that. They're actually calling out the very thing that they themselves are trying to do. So let's not fall for the banana in the tailpipe. Let's do what she said, guys. Let's hammer them with our votes. I love that. Let's do it.
Well, obviously, she was talking about Republicans doing the hammering. But Zachary, I need to remind people, Zachary, that Paul Weyrich said this in 1980. He is the co-founder of the Heritage Foundation, co-founder of the Moral Majority. Republicans have never wanted black people to vote. They don't want everyone voting. He literally said it.
And
Hold on, no, guys, play it.
Now, many of our Christians
Come on,
have
y'all.
what I call the goo-goo syndrome. Good government. They want everybody to vote. I don't want everybody to vote. Elections are not won by a majority of people. They never have been from the beginning of our country, and they are not now. As a matter of fact, our leverage in the elections, quite candidly, goes up as the voting populace goes down.
Okay, I want to play it again. I need everybody watching and listening to hear what he said, because this is one of the architects of today's GOP and today's MAGA. Listen.
Now, many of our Christians have what I call the goo-goo syndrome. Good government. They want everybody to vote. I don't want everybody to vote. Elections are not won by a majority of people. They never have been from the beginning of our country, and they are not now. As a matter of fact, our leverage in the elections, quite candidly, goes up as the voting populace goes down.
Our leverage goes up when the electoral populace goes down, Zachary. That's the ball game. That is the Republican strategy.
They have been fighting for that since before the 80s, Roland, and they have been pushing it forward, and they never gave up. They never got tired. They continuously press forward, and doing all they can for us to give away our rights, to get tired, to give up, to not press forward. And we are in the final moments, the final throes of seeing if we're going to be able to endure ourselves. And we have to be just as tireless as they are in our demand to vote, and our demand to exercise our rights, and our demands to protect our own democracy. Seeing that clip reignites a fire inside of me, and I'm hoping that those watching feel the exact same level of outrage, that you're just as angry at these people who are determined to take away the rights that our ancestors fought and died for, so that we could stand here today, and to take it away so that not only we won't have it, but future generations don't have it. This isn't about us. This isn't about Roland Martin. This isn't about Zachary Kirk. This is about children who are yet to be born, who will look like us and who will inherit this planet, this earth, this country just like us. And we have to do for them what our ancestors did for us. We have got to take ownership of this moment. We have got to take ownership of what we have given away to them, what we have let them steal back from us, and we have got to regain ground. And we're not going to do that by being divided. We're not going to do that by being splintered, and we're not going to do that by allowing mainstream media to take away and silence us, because that's what they're doing every single day. We are being continuously distracted as a people. We are being continuously distracted as a community, and in that distraction, we are losing everything that our ancestors fought for. We have got to unify. We have got to unify, and we have got to fight like never before in November. You often hear that the upcoming election will be the most consequential election of your lifetime. And for us, for our community, damn right. Every single election, no matter how small, no matter when it's scheduled, will be the most consequential election of our lifetime from this year and every year moving forward, probably until death for us and our generation, because that is exactly how it's going to be. There's no other options here because we've got to get it back.
Now, I need people to understand why Democrats winning the House is so important. I'm going to take y'all back to 1876. See, this is why history matters. In 1876, there was a contested election over the issue of voter fraud. It also were white folks denying black folks the opportunity to vote. So what happened was, when you have a contested election, it goes to the hands of the House. So that was a compromise. The Republicans said, okay, so to the Southern Democrats, if y'all go ahead and let Rutherford B. Hayes, Republican, become president, we'll agree with you and withdraw the last federal troops from the last 3 Southern states. The Southern Democrats said, the Dixiecrats said, oh yeah, we'll leave the blacks alone. Republicans believed them. The moment the great compromise of 1877 was agreed to, guess what happened? Federal troops left. The racists came in, and that's what started Jim Crow. Why was Donald Trump so afraid in 2020? Why were they trying to stop the election? They were trying to stop it because they didn't have the votes. Why do they want to hold onto the House so bad? Because they know that it's where in the House elections are certified. I need y'all to hear me again. The only reason the 2020 election got certified because Democrats controlled the House. Then Speaker Nancy Pelosi. So Donald Trump needs Speaker Mike Johnson to control the House. Because if there are any issues in any of the states, the House certifies. See, y'all ain't listening. Y'all, this is Constitution. This is in the Constitution where this lays out this whole issue of certification of the election. And so he was so angry, Trump was so mad at Mike Pence because Mike Pence chose to move forward with the certification, just as Al Gore did. So you have to understand, when there is a contested presidential election, the House votes. And that's why it's so important. And I fundamentally believe that to stop MAGA, Democrats got to win the House and the Senate. But Lisa, people need to understand, this is why Trump wants to keep the House. And he also knows that if Democrats control the House, impeachment takes place in the House. And he's scared to death. He has already articulated that if they get control of the House, I am going to be impeached because he knows he has done high crimes and misdemeanors.
Roland, I love you dearly. I got to push back. Maybe I'm just exhausted. I used to run track. I'm tired of the race. I want to just end the race. But I don't think Donald Trump gives 2 shits about being impeached. He's been impeached twice and not convicted. The man ain't scared of a damn thing.
Yes, he is.
I think
he said it.
Okay.
No, he said it. I'm not.
He said a lot of things he lies about.
No. Donald Trump. Oh, he doesn't want to get he doesn't want to get impeached again because see, here's the other problem. His ass was his ass was saved last time. The reason his ass was saved the second time after January 6th, because Mitch McConnell was like, okay, you know what? There's no way he can come back from this. He can't. So we're not going to vote to convict. So he'll never be able to come back from this. We now see that wasn't the case. Republicans, this man has done so much illegal stuff, they're going to want an off-ramp. So he doesn't want a chance in impeachment in the House, and Democrats, if, let's say they control the Senate, pick up 8, 9 votes to get to 60 and convict him. He don't want that. So the reality is, he doesn't want to go through that because he's already in the record books of being impeached twice. Damn sure don't want a third time. But they know, but they want to control the House, not largely because of impeachment. No, because they want to control the certification of the 2028 election.
Roland, let me ask a quick question. Let's go through the quick process for those watching. When they impeach and they convict, what happens with the conviction? Who now convicts? Let them know.
No, the House impeaches, the Senate convicts. The House can impeach you. So if the House impeaches him and the Senate convicts him, he is removed from office and the vice president becomes president. But that's not the main reason why they want to control the House. That's the secondary reason. The primary reason Republicans are desperate to control the House is because it is the House that if there's any voter issues, if there's a tie, if no one gets 207 electoral college votes, then the House votes. And if they have more Republicans in the House than Democrats, they get to pick the next president of the United States.
I can't.
I don't see them impeaching him. I don't. Guilty of a 34-count felony. Nothing happened there. He wasn't afraid of that. I mean, I could be wrong. Maybe I'm just cynical, but I love what you're saying. Let's say that all that happened. Let's say we all went out there and voted like our life depended on it. Let's say we all now got the House and the Senate, and he get impeached. He's not going to be convicted because let's go with some history, Roland. Historically,
now I heard an echo.
We've had
I heard myself in a bit of an
not
echo.
only him be impeached, but name the ones who've been convicted. I'll wait.
Again, I'm trying to walk you through the Constitution.
Okay.
If there's a contested election, it goes to the House. And if Republicans control the House, they will pick the next president. That's why they want to hold it. Zachary, they're very clear. The whole point of 2020, the entire point in 2020 was for them to stop the House process. This ain't no game here. They know exactly what they're doing. And so the House becomes the backstop. If no one gets 270, it goes to the House. That is a real possibility, Zachary.
Absolutely. And this is the thing about Republicans. This is the thing about Republicans, people, is they try it and they fail, but they never give up. They keep going and they keep fucking going and they keep fucking going until they get their damn way because they have overwhelmed the system. They have fatigued us. They've tired us out. And so they've already tried this. They had plans in place. They tried multiple routes and they failed. But they still have yet to give up. So they're going to try, go right back again. They're going to continuously attempt to circumvent the will of the American people, continuously try to circumvent the power of American democracy to have their way. I'm not saying that I believe that Donald Trump will be convicted of a damn thing, but baby, a third impeachment sure as fuck sounds good to me. A third impeachment, putting this motherfucker down in history, pardon my language, putting this man down in history in a way that he will never come forward is absolutely, I think, very, very appropriate and extremely fair. This man is obsessed with his legacy. He has taken the name of the Kennedy Center and turned it into Donald Trump Kennedy Center. This man has taken Washington, D.C. and turned it into some kind of foolish clown circus. This man is putting a Grand Prix up and down the streets of our nation's capital. This man has paved over Black Lives Matter Boulevard, all in an attempt to solidify his own legacy so that he goes down in history. He's wanting to demolish monuments, to build new monuments of himself, put himself on the face of Mount Rushmore, all in an attempt to create a lasting, living legacy of who he was and what he did to harm the American people, particularly those of us who look and love like me. That is this man's goal. So with giving him the right history, the fair history, the real history of a third impeachment would bring nothing but absolute joy to my heart.
But I need people, and again, y'all, I need people to understand that the Constitution is very clear. Go to my iPad. Article 2, Section 1, Clause 2. Each state shall appoint in such manner as the legislature thereof may direct a number of electors equal to the whole number of senators and representatives to which the state may be entitled in the Congress. But no senator or representative or person holding an office of trust or profit under the United States shall be appointed an elector. They want to control the House because the House certifies an election. They want to control the House because if there's anything that happens with the election, y'all, I'm not speaking hypothetically. This literally happened in 1876. The 1876 election was a contested election. This literally happened. The thing is, what resolved the 1876 election? The Great Compromise of 1877. So I'm simply trying to tell y'all this thing is real. So when you look at what took place, and again, right here, these are the numbers. Republican Rutherford B. Hayes got 4,033,497 votes. Democrat Samuel Tilden got 4,288,191 votes. Hayes had 185 Electoral College votes. Tilden had 184. Look at this right here. Boom, right here. 3 electors chosen by state legislature and awarded to Rutherford B. Hayes. Y'all, the numbers are right here. So what I'm laying out to you is you need to understand why they are taking the action they are taking. So this is not some political exercise, that we're talking about here. They know why they want to do this. This right here is history.house.gov, the electoral vote count of the 1876 presidential election. Look what it says. It says, on this date, a joint session of the 44th Congress met for the first time to count the electoral votes in the 1876 presidential election. Democrat Samuel Tilden had emerged from the close election, leading Republican Rutherford B. Hayes of Ohio, just 1 vote shy of the 185 needed to win. Let me say it again, y'all. The Democrat Tilden led Hayes. However, returns from Louisiana, Florida, South Carolina, and Oregon remain in dispute. The Southern tallies were particularly controversial. Both Tilden and Hayes electors submitted votes from these 3 states, each claiming victory in violent and confused elections. The Democratic-controlled House and the Republican, let me say it again, the Democratic-controlled House and the Republican-dominated Senate came to a compromise on how to resolve the problem by creating an electoral commission, a bipartisan committee of House members, senators, and Supreme Court justices who would determine the final disposition of the yet unassigned electoral votes. And that was the Great Compromise of 1877. And the compromise was, we'll make Hayes the president. And the Democrats said, if y'all just remove those last federal troops from the remaining 3 southern states, and that is exactly what started Jim Crow. Y'all, That's real American history. Greg Carr, Department of African American Studies at Howard University, joins us right now. Greg, I'm making the point, Greg, that that Democrats winning the House, this whole thing with Trump and mail-in ballots, which is also hilarious because he voted by mail, and so he's an absolute liar. This is about decreasing the electorate. The Republicans are desperate to keep the House for the purpose of it certifies the 2028 election. They're desperate to keep the Senate because that's who picks Supreme Court justices. People need to understand what the stakes are in 70 days.
Yes. I mean, that's it in a nutshell. We saw it. We saw the wholesale unilateral disarmament of the Democratic Party in the 2000 election, Bush versus Gore, which is where you can trace all of this, the feckless Supreme Court. And in their opinion, they said, don't use this opinion as precedent in anything else. That's when all the political charade was dropped. When they couldn't find anybody on the Senate side. You remember this well, Roland, members of the Congressional Black Caucus saying, hey, they stopped this vote at the state level. This is absurd. And nobody on the Senate side would help the House folk in 2000. We've seen it again. As you've walked us through it again. We saw it in the election of 2020. And they're trying to game the system. They've taken out all stops. You saw what happened in Maryland this week when a judge said that they didn't follow the rules in the state of Maryland according to the Maryland Constitution. So they're not going to allow that redistricting to go through. We saw it in Virginia. Only the Democrats seem to be playing by the rules. The white nationalists have thrown all the rules out. Finally, we saw today, of course, the United States Postal Service, that lackey who was in charge of the USPS, saying that the new requirements for mail-in voting are now in effect. John Roberts, that feckless white nationalist, saying in his opinion, well, they didn't sign the opinion, punks. It's a per curiam opinion, but we know that Sotomayor, Kagan, and Ketanji Onyeka Brown-Jackson dissented. In Ketanji Onyeka Brown-Jackson's case, a 21-page dissent, notice that you've injected chaos. You're attempting to inject chaos in this. But we also know that the rules they put in place today, the United States Post Office, were released on Friday. So John Roberts saying in that opinion, and his friends, the MAGA 6, saying that we have to wait, that it isn't ripe yet. Fool, they released the final rules on Friday. You're a disingenuous liar. They have thrown all caution to the wind. There are no rules, and they are willing to do anything it takes. Finally, and as I've been listening, of course, I hadn't jumped in yet. And as Zachary said, we got to fight this all the way to the wall and then get up and fight it again. But let's be very clear. These acts of desperation are the dying gasps of white nationalists and fascists. This is the dying gasp. The tech bros, the nerd Reich, as they call themselves crazily, they know that this is for all the marbles. And so as a result, they have thrown all caution to the wind. They've thrown everything to the wind. They've sacrificed even more, these poor whites. And this little coalition that is fracturing as we speak, this is the right time now to put our foot on their political necks and break their political necks. This is the moment. We're closer than many people may think. We just got to get over the finish line for this election.
Absolutely. Hold tight 1 second. We're going to go to a break. We're going to talk more about this, how we also cannot allow ourselves to be distracted by meaningless things. I'll explain next. Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. All right, folks, let me get personal for a second. My mom had questions about her Medicare, so she called Chapter, a Medicare advisory company, and she texted me right after saying it's a great benefit. It was easy. A real person walked her through the whole thing, and now she understands better what's going on. But it's not just her. A woman in Yonkers wrote in saying the process was so simple, the enrollment was easy, and she was so glad she called. Then there's Marilyn, 90 years old, in Florida, living on Social Security. Her premium climbed every single year north of $400 a month for coverage she could barely afford anymore. So what does she do? She called Chapter. They found her the same top-tier coverage for hundreds of dollars less. 90 years old, and finally somebody in her corner. I hear stories like that again and again from our community. The Medicare system was not built to work for you. Too much fine print, too many plans. Yet Chapter's advisors are independent and honest, the only Medicare advisors that compare every plan nationwide. They're focused on one thing, what actually works for you. If you're already in the right plan, they'll tell you. No games, People who switched to a chapter saved an average of $1,100 a year. All it takes is 20 minutes. You talk to a real person, and it's completely free help. So call Chapter at 724-264-8281, 724-264-8281. That's Chapter.
Let me ask you a question. Why do so many people seem to think they know black men so well? What they think we want, what they think we need. Hell, they even tried to tell us why and how we voted, but never had a conversation with us. Never asked us how we felt, what brings us joy, what makes us angry, what makes us scared. How do we live? That's what this show is about. No translation, because we don't need anybody speaking for us. We can speak for ourselves. This will be a show where we bring brothers on that you don't see on every other talk show. Nope. Brothers that are doing work in local communities with black men for black communities. We're going to hear each other and try to understand, so perhaps we can move forward together. No translation, because we don't need anybody speaking for us. Nope. What we need is each other. No translation, right here on the Black Star Network. Check it out.
I'm Chris Tucker, and you're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered. While you keep rolling with Roland.
Folks, earlier today I talked with Democratic House Leader Hakeem Jeffries about a variety of issues, including his meeting with Jared Kushner, what's happening with the U.S. Postal Service and mail-in ballots, plus Democrat investment in targeting black voters. Here's our conversation.
Congressman Jeffries, glad to have you here. A lot of things I want to get to. We don't have much time. A lot of people have been talking about your meeting with Jared Kushner. Why meet with him? He's not in the administration. But he's in the administration. Was it a mistake to meet with him?
Well, great to be with you, Roland. And he reached out for a meeting. I agreed to have it, to hear what he had to say. He obviously is very close to the administration. And our view that we've expressed from the very beginning as House Democrats is that we've got to both push back against the extremism being unleashed on the American people in ways never before seen, and we'll continue to do that, battle them on everything on behalf of the American people, while at the same period of time, whenever and wherever possible, try to get things done. And that does require, at times, sitting with people on the other side of the aisle, even when you strongly disagree with them on most, if not almost every issue.
Which I understand, but he's not actually in the administration. So how does he deal with the issue of affordability when he has no role in the administration?
Well, he reached out and I agreed to have the conversation with him. Obviously, he's somebody who in the past has been formally part of the administration and continues to work closely with the administration, as we've seen in terms of the work that he's been engaged in relative to what we view as a reckless and costly war of choice in the Middle East. I think, as you know, Roland, he's also someone who I worked with in Trump's first term relative to passage of the historic First Step Act, which is something, of course, that we got over the finish line in a bipartisan way, the most significant and meaningful criminal justice reform legislation passed in a generation that has done a lot, not everything, but done a lot to strike back against the mass incarceration epidemic that has been inflicted on the country generally, but specifically has had an adverse impact on Black and brown communities who've been disproportionately incarcerated as a result of the failed war on drugs. So that's foundational in terms of prior work that we had done together. And I was interested in hearing what he had to say about the moment that we find ourselves in, consistent with, I think, what we've done repeatedly as Democrats, which is to make sure that we're traveling along both tracks, pushing back ferociously on the extremism and corruption being unleashed on the American people, and whenever and wherever possible, making clear that we want to get things done.
Want to get things done. Last question on this, though. Democrats win the House. You become Speaker. Are you prepared to launch investigations of the alleged corruption of this administration, of the self-dealing that has been reported? regarding Jared Kushner, regarding Donald Trump, regarding Eric Trump, Donald Trump Jr., it seems as if these folk are raping and pillaging the country and making billions of dollars. Look at the trades, the loans to companies that Eric and Donald are taking stakes in. Again, Kushner in negotiating deals in the Middle East, but taking money from forcing the Middle East. Will these folks be properly investigated by Congress if Democrats take control of the House?
Short answer is yes. And we've made clear nobody is getting a pass who's part of the Trump cartel. And we've been very clear. If you're stealing from the American people, shortchanging the American people, or screwing over the American people, you're going to be held accountable beginning on day one. Now, as Democrats, we've said down the stretch, and we're inside of 70 days at this particular point in time, that we're going to fight for an affordable America. We're fighting to lower the high cost of living, lower the cost of gas, lower the cost of groceries, and lower the cost of housing. We're going to fight to make sure that healthcare is affordable for every single American, and we're going to hold the crooks accountable. Now, that work is going to be led by Jamie Raskin and the Judiciary Committee Democrats, along with Robert Garcia and the Oversight Committee Democrats. And by the way, Roland, investigations into Trump corruption have already been launched by both the Oversight and the Judiciary Committee Democrats, including people connected to the Trump family.
The Supreme Court is allowing, for right now, Trump to move forward with his executive order to basically block states that don't do their bidding in the Postal Service. Democrats are renewing their efforts to stop that. How do you stop it, though? He's issued the executive order. The Supreme Court has ruled, but they not have given a final ruling. And so I saw the New York Attorney General Tish James, as well as Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro, say they're going to push back. What can y'all do to stop this from happening? Because clearly Trump wants the Postal Service determining who gets absentee ballots and who does not.
Well, no question that Donald Trump and Republicans have decided, because they've failed on everything, failed on the economy, failed on tariffs, failed on healthcare, failed on this reckless and costly war of choice in the Middle East, where gas prices have skyrocketed, and of course, failed to actually make life more affordable for the American people. They have no track record of success to run on. And so, of course, they're going to do everything that they can to try to rig the midterm elections. And we've stood up the largest voter protection effort in the history of the country. House Democrats working with Senate Democrats, working with Democratic governors, working with the Democratic attorney generals like Keith Ellison and Tish James, as well as Democratic secretaries of state, partnering with civil rights groups, organized labor, civil liberties groups, good government groups, and the faith community. Now, with respect to Trump's efforts with respect to mail-in voting and absentee voting and trying to meddle in that space, we've, of course, gone back into court, as well as the attorney generals have gone back into court. Now, and that process will have to play itself out. And we got a favorable ruling, we believe, in a variety of other areas from the Fourth Circuit in terms of some of the other meddling that Donald Trump and his minions are trying to engage in relative to the midterm elections. But it's going to be one battle after another that we'll have to continue to fight in this regard. In terms of voting by mail or voting early in ways that would not necessarily involve the Postal Service, remember, in many of these states, like a California, for instance, or Washington or Oregon, where a majority of the people actually don't vote at polling sites, but there are drop boxes that are secured, that are run by the states or local authorities themselves, that don't involve having to even engage the Postal Service. So we're going to battle this Postal Service executive order, and I believe ultimately we'll be successful. But at the same period of time, there are other ways to encourage people to exercise their right to vote that don't involve interference from Donald Trump.
You mentioned we're some 70 odd days away from the election, but also you got early voting that'll be starting very soon as well. I have been hearing from black firms, black media firms, black consultants, that they continue to see, frankly, an economic apartheid coming from the Democratic Party when it comes to investment in black communities. People have made announcements they're going to make investments, but they haven't seen the firms being hired. What are you saying to not just, of course, DCCC is under your purview, but DSCC, DGA, all of these entities, all of these PACs, to understand that if you are not investing in black voters, listen, you're going to be putting the party at risk of actually losing. Axios has a story that says that, hey, Gen Z voters are voting a lot differently from older black voters. And what I keep saying is that Democrats are going to have to be spending 4 times as much time, 4 times as much money to get black folks to turn out. What are you saying to these entities that they have to be doing so we're not in a situation where we're having this discussion in the first and second week of October when it's too late?
Well, we definitively can't take any vote for granted, and we can't take any black vote for granted. And the reality is, whether those are Gen Z voters or Gen X voters or older baby boom voters, we should be communicating to everyone within the black community on the core issues that matter. And we know that authentic messaging requires authentic platform engagement and messengers. And that certainly is something that across the ecosystem, I will continue to push for. So that's the DCCC, that's the Democratic Senatorial Campaign Committee, that's the Democratic Legislative Campaign Committee, because we're battling to win state legislative bodies all across the country. That will be important in places like Georgia, for instance, so we can stop some of the drama that Georgia Republicans will try to engage in detonating a few African-American opportunity to elect districts in the next cycle. Of course, making sure that the Democratic Governors Association, Attorney General's Association, Secretary of State's Association, that everybody is on one accord in terms of the type of engagement necessary to be able to make sure our message is reaching folks in the non-traditional way, because the traditional ways of campaigning clearly are not as potent and powerful as they once were. And unless there's a willingness to recognize that, then things are not going to go the right way. We're on track to win, Roland. We're going to win the House back, and we have a real shot to win the Senate. But we will not be able to do these things unless we have robust, active participation from black voters who remain at the heart of the Democratic coalition. I think that's one of the reasons why the DNC made the decision to lead with South Carolina.
Absolutely. Well, Congressman Jeffries, we appreciate it. And next time we do an interview, I'll be wearing a Houston Astros jersey since we keep beating the hell out of your Yankees.
Well, listen, I still got faith in the Yankees, but we've had a couple of rough runs with the Houston Astros, and we're ready to get back at them.
Yeah, good luck. All right, Congressman, we appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, man.
Yes, my next guest speaks to this issue. He says that part of the Democratic problem is a straight white American male preference, what he calls the swamp. Steve Phillips, the founder of Democracy in Color, is also the author of the book, Are White Men Smarter Than Everybody Else, Playing Offense in the Fight for Racial Justice in America? Steve, you heard what Leader Jeffries there said. My panel, we also going to talk about the full interview as well, but with Steve, we're going to talk about just that part here. And Steve, it's an issue, and I keep seeing it. All that discussion after 2024, all the discussion 2020, and it keeps happening over and over and over again. I've already gotten calls from black media firms, black buying firms, black-owned media, black consultants, talking about the billions of dollars that are being spent and how the same white Democratic strategies are not actually listening, and that cabal is controlling the money. That was the whole discussion about what was left out of the Democratic autopsy of the 2024 election. And it's like these white folks ain't getting the message, and they still just keep thinking, well, if we could just go ahead and throw crumbs at these black folks, they're going to keep turning out, and we're going to keep winning.
Exactly. And so this is the issue we've been talking about, for a long time. So we just came out, Democracy in Color, with another audit. I think you and I just talked a decade ago when we had done this Fannie Lou Hamer report on Democratic Party spending and where is the money going. And so we're calling this a swamp audit, lined with this concept of straight white American male preference being this powerful force in the country and in the Democratic Party, and really undermining the chances for us to win. White men are 29% of the country, 26% of Democratic voters, and yet the vast majority of the strategy, the spending, the leadership is controlled by whites and white men. 100% of the party leadership who running the campaigns is white. So Hakeem is going to be the head of the Democrats in Congress, but the campaign arm, and then the super PAC arm, and then similarly the Senate campaign arm, the Senate super PAC arm, they're all run by white people. 100% of the top Democratic Party leadership positions, 67% of them run by straight white men or white men. And then to the vendor's point, we looked at $154 million that's already been allocated this year. 92% of that money went to white consultants and 57% of it to white male consultants. And so that's vastly over-representing and giving greater preference to whites and white men. And it's a bigger problem because it gets at the strategy of, are those people, do they have the knowledge, the cultural competence, the insight, the relationships to move those resources to the right places and people who actually comprise the majority of the Democratic Party's base, half of which of Democratic Party voters are people of color. And so are we functioning with that mindset, or is this obsession with trying to get at straight white male voters, making us spend money in ways that are not smart and not supported by the data?
I've made this clear. If there is any moment where the Congressional Black Caucus should be going hardcore, it's right now. This is one of those moments where pounding the table, kicking the table, threatening the party, and saying, no, hell no, where's the plan? They should be doing that for every single Senate campaign, House campaign, governor's campaign. Because what's the point of being the largest caucus in the Democratic Party if you do not wield your power?
100%. Yeah, well, 100%. And so that's where it gets to the strategy and the spending being run by folks who don't have the cultural competence, and they're locked into this old mindset. And this is partly how we lost the Senate, and certainly lost, we talked about in the report, the Pennsylvania Senate seat was lost by 55,000 votes, but Black voters did not vote at the same level that white voters had. And if you had brought that Black voter level up by investing in voter turnout and transportation and canvassers, that would have gotten the vote. That would have cost $6 million, and that would have gotten the Democrats to win that seat in Pennsylvania. They spent $63 million on television ads. And so the mindset of those who are doing the work is unaccountable to and uninformed by what really has to happen. So yes, the Congressional Black Caucus, Black activists, organizers, media folks have to shine a light to bring pressure to bear on those spending the hundreds of millions and billions of dollars that are being allocated.
And you can't wait until the second week in October.
100%. Oh, 100%. And one of the things that's not being talked about, for example, is in Mississippi. There's an actual opportunity, if we had massive voter registration, massive voter turnout in Mississippi, to actually be able to win that race, which is the blackest state in the country. But the resources have not come in. There should be a precinct organizer paid for by the party in every single precinct in the whole state of Mississippi. But that kind of allocation doesn't happen because they're saving money to do in television in whiter states, which is kind of what the mindset has been. And somebody has to push back against that and shine a light on how that's not informed by data. And that's not how we actually win. And yet the same folks who led us to defeat in 2024, in many cases, are still the ones running the show in 2026.
Go to my panel. Zachary, you first.
Mm-hmm. It was so wonderful to hear Speaker Jeffries himself in this space being asked some really hard questions, Roland. And I think that from looking at the comments as that interview was being played, the audience absolutely agreed with it. It was definitely tough to witness the news and read the article in the New York Times about Speaker Jeffries, but Leader Jeffries, I'm sorry. I'm speaking into the future of what will be. To see that Leader Jeffries met with Jared Kushner, but on the other end of it, it was also reassuring to have him ask those questions and then to affirm that it was being done on behalf of the American people, specifically those of us who are struggling through the affordability crisis right now. It's also really great to be able to hear C. Phillips, a noted author and leader in the work with civil rights, because again, he's for you, C, thank you for being here and for me being able to see you in this space. Some of the books that you've written, I read a while ago. And again, it gives me hope to keep pushing forward. And it's a blueprint for not giving up as we fight continuously against the scourge of white supremacy. I want to say that, in regards to Leader Jeffries being here, what he had to say, it's a tough pill to swallow, to accept the fact that this man isn't like us, because he can't be like us. His job is not to fight against this administration in the same way that our job is to fight against the administration. This man has to employ a level of political diplomacy and a level of political acumen to make achievements for the entire Democratic Party and for all of the American people. So again, Roland, thank you for bringing that in that very well done interview to the forefront.
This is sort of how I frame this. And I'm gonna go to Lisa and Greg as well. Matter of fact, I'm gonna hold that thought after I let them answer questions. Lisa, you're next.
I'm going to hit the caucus first, and then I'm going to go to Jeffries. My unpopular opinion is the Congressional Black Caucus is absolutely wielding their power for themselves and their cronies, not on the behalf of the people. That's one point. Put a pin in that.
Oh, yes, stop. No, hold up. If you're going to make that point, where's your evidence? Give me a specific example.
Well, when you start to see the caucus not separate themselves from all of these political wranglings to make sure that people like us have food, have shelter, have clothing, affordability, and all of those things, they're not separating themselves from that. They're actually locked in. The proof is in no pudding. There is no pudding there.
No.
So I said what I said.
Again, that's a sound bite, but I want to know a specific.
Right.
When you say they're locked in and they're not doing that, how?
Well, see, here's the thing. Now maybe I'm going to sound dumb, so people don't have to agree. Whenever somebody's asking, not you, I'm just saying anybody asking about a question. If somebody is asking, how does the sun come up every day? How do we have rain? All I know is I see the rain. I see the sun. I don't see anything tangible that they're doing. So I could be wrong.
Yes.
Charge it to the game.
Yes, you are wrong. That's why my point is, if you're going to make an allegation.
So what have they done? What have they done? What have they done that you can show tangibly that I can sink my teeth into to see, hey, here's what the Congressional Black Caucus is doing. Now, it's a rumor, but they were saying that some of the Democratic Socialists, if they don't get in line, they're not going to support them. That's a rumor. I don't know if that's really true. That bothers me if it's true.
But wait. Okay. First of all, again, when we start talking about what folks have not done, that just simply is incorrect. First of all, under Trump, they've been in the minority. So the Republicans control the House. All right. What they've done, actually, you take Ayanna Pressley. She forced the House vote to provide temporary protected status for Haitians. It passed. It died in the United States Senate. You had other issues that have been forced in terms of they forced Republicans to have to vote on it. Now, we can talk about funding. We could talk about stuff for HBCUs. We could talk about. Listen, under Biden Harris, it was Congressman Bobby Scott who was responsible for driving that $17 billion to HBCUs. That's an actual tangible. So again, my whole point is, if we're going to make a statement, back it up with something specific and not anything general. What I'm speaking here, like for instance, on the very issue we're talking about, I was in South Carolina a couple of weeks ago. Congressman Jim Clyburn has been going hard at the party apparatus when it comes to spending on African Americans. What I am saying is that I need the entire Black Caucus raining holy hell on DSCC, DCCC, DGA, the entire apparatus, and I'm saying that is not happening. Go ahead.
And I need the entire Black Caucus to start supporting these new up-and-coming Democrats, the socialists, to try to make sure that we start to gain more momentum and get the young people voting. I said that last week. If you want young people to vote, bring them in. Let them see other folks like you, not just the lifers. All they want to do is support the lifers. Now, maybe I have
they're incumbents. So,
I don't see them.
You're asking, okay, I'm confused now. You're asking CBC members who are incumbents to support folks who are running against CBC members. Duh. If you're an incumbent, you're not.
No, I'm not saying for their particular seat, but for other seats, like Zoran Mamdani supports other people for other seats. I'm not saying their own seat. I get that competition. I used to run track. But how about supporting people for other kinds of seats? You can be supportive of people for other kinds of seats. Mamdani did it. He didn't support, not for the being the mayor of the city of New York.
Okay, but Andre Dickens and Randall Woodfin and Governor Wes Moore support people for other. Again, I need us to be. I need us to have clarity when we're making a critique. And what I'm saying is, I'm not getting clarity. I'm getting this sort of broad thing here. What I'm saying specifically here on this issue when it comes to money. What I'm saying, if $8 to $10 to $12 billion is being spent on campaigns, what I need is the Congressional Black Caucus as an entity, and then the state Black caucuses kicking the ass of the party, saying,
"I agree.
Where are the resources?" And so what I'm making. I'm making a very specific argument.
Yep, I agree. No, I agree with that, and I want to see that. So maybe I'm a little bit, I'll move on because I'm just a little Black girl from Newark. I'm not that connected. So let me get into your boy Hakeem Jeffries. I don't appreciate Hakeem Jeffries. I do not think Hakeem Jeffries should operate that differently from the regular people, the constituents he deals with. I did not like anything that Hakeem Jeffries said. All that whackness and going in circles and talking out of both sides of his neck about why he met with Jared Kushner. And, he's a grifter. I tried to give Hakeem Jeffries a chance many times. Maybe he meant this, and no, I'm tired of it. He's a grifter. I'm tired of his vacillating ass. Vacillating. There was never any reason for him to meet with Jared Kushner. It cracked me up when he said, we're gonna hold the crooks accountable. Oh, okay, I get it. So you're gonna meet with a crook to talk about crooks. The man was talking out of both sides of his neck. All of that pontificating and that double speak and I do my little craziness. I mean, I don't trust him. I don't care for his politics. He scares me. If I don't like it, he's inconsistent. So whenever, there was a saying, I forgot who made up the saying. Somebody said, if you're talking to someone and you don't know what they're talking about, they don't want you to know what they're talking about. I don't know what he's talking about. So my thing is, okay, so why did you do it? There has to be something he's getting from that. I don't know what. Again, I'm not that politically connected or that politically astute, but I can't see that he met with them for the reasons of helping the people make sure we had food, affordable health care, places to live. I don't like it. I don't trust it. And to be honest with you, I don't want him to be the Speaker of the House. I want him gone. I want him out of there. He's a disgrace.
But here's the deal. First off, the only people could not elect him are the voters in Brooklyn and his district.
I know.
But the second point is this here. Second point is this here. If you don't win the House, you don't get to vote on the Speaker. And I'm gonna make that point a little bit later. And I think that's the mistake too many damn progressives are making. You're counting eggs before they hatch. Greg.
Thank you, Roland. And good to see you, Steve. We're going to get you scheduled for the Black Table, and we've reached out. We're going to figure out a time, man, because this book, White Men Smarter Than Everybody Else, is fire. Just a couple of quick questions for you, brother. Near the end of the book, you talk about the fact that while we have to fight these short-term battles, we've got to extend our scope out to think in a longer range. I hope you'll give us a word or two on what you're calling Project 2126 in terms of the core components. And in terms of Representative Jeffries, who is, doing what he's supposed to do as a corporate Dem, saying that he won't support things he supported in the past, like Medicaid for all, refusing to even whip a vote on the DHS, and meeting with Slender Man, meeting with the man in the dead man suit, Jared Kushner. Certainly AIPAC is pleased with that as they continue to try to kill the Palestinians and achieve the vision of, Riviera on the bones of the bodies in Gaza. Hakeem has proven faithful and consistent on that front. Steve, I wonder if you have any thoughts on, as it relates to the speaker and what's going on, whether or not this reach out from Kushner, and that's being reported. I saw it, obviously, New York Times, the Trump whisperer, Maggie Haberman, and then Truth Out, some other places, saying that it's been suggested he reach out to Susie Wiles and try to figure out, can they find some common ground? Do you think that this meeting with Kushner was, in part, maybe a concession by the GOP that they're going to lose the midterm election, and they're trying to get ahead of some of this, and whether or not there might be, if and when Jeffries does go up for a vote, enough people in the House of Representatives in some of those new seats, like the sister coming out of Colorado and a couple of people coming out of New York, who might lead a revolt, in fact, and they may have to come up with somebody else to be a candidate for the speaker, since Representative Jeffries can talk to Jared Kushner, but seemingly not the progressive people who are now beginning to capture the Democratic Party. Thanks, Brother Nivane.
Yeah, so I think that it's not the fact of the meeting, it's the content of the meeting. And we don't really fully know enough about that. Right? I mean, Nelson Mandela met with the Afrikaners and the corporate people there in terms of trying to put together an agenda, but it wasn't who he was meeting with. He was meeting about, are we going to have democracy and justice for everybody? And so that's the real question. So I'm willing to give him a little bit of the benefit of the doubt around the substance, around what we're actually trying to move forward. And I do think your point is accurate. I don't think they would be reaching out to have a meeting, period, if they thought they were going to hold the House or they were super confident about that. So it certainly does show some level of defensive maneuvering on their part. So to me, it's not the meeting, it's the content and how is he positioning himself to be able to lead. And I did like what he was saying about being aggressive in terms of holding people accountable, because this is also a moment, Roland was running down a lot of the numbers from the Reconstruction period and the battle in the House. If we take back the House, this is going to be akin to this period around how do you treat those who have tried to overthrow the democracy in this country? And how do you hold them accountable, and what are you going to do in that regard? So that's, I think, what we have to looking at, is Hakeem going to move in that direction?
And I just, and also, Steve, on that particular point, or will Democrats say, oh, you know what, let's not relitigate the past, let's move on, let's not do any of that, when, again, when you talk about the Reconstruction period, it's in the 14th Amendment, the whole issue dealing with insurrectionists. They were very clear on that, and what the Democrats have done is the people who tried to overthrow the election in 2020, Jim Jordan, others, Ted Cruz, others, they're still sitting in the United States Senate, or the United States House, too.
Oh, 100%. And that's the thing. People don't realize that when Congress people are sworn in, they take the oath of office. And that oath of office, you say, every single person says, to defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. The domestic is the Confederates. It's those who were part of it actually try. And so they were consciously trying to weed out and not have those folks get back in power, let alone the way that things have actually played themselves out. So they absolutely have that. And then just to the point, thanks for asking about the part of the book we're talking about, 2129. I'm just saying we have to think longer and broader, that even when, Trump went after and eliminated the affirmative action executive order, that had lasted for 60 years and it hadn't done the job completely. And so what's our policy, our programs, our direction for the next 60 years? And are we thinking in that vein? Because clearly, even back, or even 150 plus years, they're going to go after the 14th Amendment. We have to be thinking about how do we put in place structures, programs, policies that are going to entrench power for those who want us to be a multicultural democracy. Instead of a Voting Rights Act that can be eviscerated and undermined and attacked every 25 years, what about making voting mandatory?
Yep.
Other countries have voting. The things we care about, we make people do. You pay taxes, you get a driver's license. So why can't we do things like that?
And a final point, Steve, when you talked about these white men, your book is Are White Men Smarter Than Everybody Else? When you talk about in the Democratic Party, these white men controlling it, that's who I also mentioned in White Fear. I said, y'all, I said, white fear ain't just about conservatives. It's also about white progressives who also don't want to give up power and money. Steve, final comment.
100%. Well, 100%, and that's what I was trying to lift up. What we're trying to lift up in the swamp audit is that this predisposition towards preference for straight white men is systemic, longstanding, and deeply embedded, but it imperils our prospects for the midterms. So that's why we have to lift this up. That's why we have to make pressure. There's still going to be hundreds of millions of dollars spent over the next couple months, and how much of that is going to go towards TV ads trying to convince white men who aren't going to be with us, and how much of that is going to be hiring canvassers and giving money to groups to get out Black voters and voters of color who can actually help us take back the House and take back the Senate.
Indeed. Steve Phillips, Democracy in Color, we appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks a lot. All right, the point I was making earlier that I said I'll hold off on regarding Representative Hakeem Jeffries is this here. And I'm speaking to every single progressive, Democrat, liberal, DSA, whatever you want to call yourself, and that's this. If you are having a conversation today about you not wanting Representative Jeffries to be the next speaker, then you're actually wasting your time. Because see, this is the fundamental problem that I have with Democrats, progressives, liberals. You ain't won shit. You control nothing. Polls mean nothing right now. All these people like, oh no, Fox News, they're all going, oh yeah, it's gonna be brutal, okay? Look, you got the CNN data guys like, oh, it's gonna be a wipeout. You do not count votes before anybody has voted. I need y'all to understand, the election is November 3rd. The next Congress isn't sworn in until January. You got 2 whole damn months from November 4th through Congress getting sworn in to debate, argue, fight, yell, holler, scream, whether you want Representative Jeffries to be the next Speaker of the House and the first Black Speaker of the House. Right now, you need to fucking win. Right now, you need to be registering voters. Right now, you need to be educating, enlightening, and informing people of the issues and what's at stake. And then come next month, you're hitting the registration deadlines. And then what you start doing is you start targeting early voting. You don't wait until November 3rd. You tell people if the Supreme Court allows Trump's executive order to go through, you say, yo, we're going to pick y'all up and take it to the polls. Don't count on absentee balloting. But it is beyond stupid to me to be having a discussion about something that ain't even happened yet. Because guess what? If Democrats don't win the House, Jeffries will not be Speaker, and no other Democrat will be Speaker. So how about all you Democrats, liberals, progressive, and others, seriously shut the fuck up and focus on what's in front of you, and that's called winning. Because if you don't win, you don't have power. I'll be right back. All right, folks, let me get personal for a second. My mom had questions about her Medicare, so she called Chapter, a Medicare advisory company, and she texted me right after saying it's a great benefit. It was easy. A real person walked her through the whole thing, and now she understands better what's going on. But it's not just her. A woman in Yonkers wrote in saying the process was so simple, the enrollment was easy, and she was so glad she called. Then there's Marilyn, 90 years old, in Florida, living on Social Security. Her premium climbed every single year north of $400 a month for coverage she could barely afford anymore. So what does she do? She called Chapter. They found her the same top-tier coverage for hundreds of dollars less. 90 years old, and finally somebody in her corner. I hear stories like that again and again from our community. The Medicare system was not built to work for you. Too much fine print, too many plans. Yet Chapter's advisors are independent and honest, the only Medicare advisors that compare every plan nationwide. They're focused on one thing, what actually works for you. If you're already in the right plan, they'll tell you. No games, and people who switched to a chapter saved an average of $1,100 a year. All it takes is 20 minutes. You talk to a real person, and it's completely free help. So call Chapter at 724-264-8281, 724-264-8281. That's Chapter.
Let me ask you a question. Why do so many people seem to think they know black men so well, but they think we want what they think we need? Hell, they even tried to tell us why and how we voted, but never had a conversation with us. Never asked us how we felt, what brings us joy, what makes us angry, what makes us scared. How do we live? That's what this show is about. No translation, because we don't need anybody speaking for us. We can speak for ourselves. This will be a show where we bring brothers on that you don't see on every other talk show. Nope. Brothers that are doing work in local communities with black men for black communities. We're going to hear each other and try to understand, so perhaps we can move forward together. No translation, because we don't need anybody speaking for us. Nope. What we need is each other. No translation, right here on the Black Star Network. Check it out.
Watching on Martin on Milton.
Residents of Gary, Indiana are picking up the pieces after a devastating storm on August 11 left them without power for weeks. Trees collapsed onto homes, no electricity, no water, no air conditioning, and no means to cook have been the stark reality for the folks in the predominantly black city. Gary native and Capitol Beat reporter Javante Anderson, who lived through the blackout firsthand, says he's never seen a power outage like this. He joins us right now. Glad to have you on the show. First off, just give us a sense of on the ground what folks have been saying and experiencing over the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, it's really something right out of a movie, is what I would say. Trees toppled over, traffic lights blanked, homes destroyed, trees smashed on homes, vacancies all throughout the neighborhoods. And that left people fighting for resources, people scrambling in the streets. Initially, when the power's out, people are scrambling, looking for electricity. You see long lines at gas stations, people looking for giveaways to receive food and other resources, toiletries, everything. Last week, it was really a scene out of a movie.
Listen, the reason I understand it, I've said this before, I lived through 3 hurricanes. Hurricane Alicia in 1983, we were without power in Houston in August for almost 3 weeks. So I absolutely know what that's like, stifling heat. And man, you talk about a rough go. I was born and raised in the Catholic Church. I ain't never went to all of the services because we were just sitting there feeling the AC because it was hot as hell at home. And again, listen, we spent a few nights in a hotel, but we couldn't afford to be in a hotel for 3 weeks. And that's also reality. A lot of people don't really understand. And I had people who were emailing me and putting on our socials how they were burning their savings just trying to live in the past couple of weeks.
Exactly. I mean, I look at the first few days, I started looking at hotel prices. Hotel prices skyrocketed, not just in the neighboring cities in Gary, but all the way out to Chicago. Hotel prices were just unaffordable for people. And when you also look at prices and money loss, I really think about the people who lost wages. You have people who are out of work. You have places that were never closed, from CVS to Walgreens, places that are traditionally open 24/7. But now you have people who are out of work because of these closures, and they're losing money that's critical to their livelihood. Gary has a very large poverty demographic of people in poverty. So you have people who can't afford to lose even a day's wage. So then when you go 2 days, 3 days, 4 days, and it just lets you know how calamitous the ramifications would be even moving forward.
Absolutely. And so now that the power is being restored, are people now turning their attention? Are they putting pressure on city officials? But are they really targeting the electric company, demanding more answers and demanding accountability?
Absolutely. I've been here my whole life. I spent time in Chicago, but I've been here, born and raised here, and came back here recently. I've never seen the pressure like this on NIPSCO, which is the utility. They obviously are the lone operator providing electricity for people in northern Indiana, and now it's at an all-time high. We've now had not only the governor, Mike Braun, release a really hot statement, and he's been on the news being vocal against them. There's also a lawsuit that opened up against them from residents, and the pressure will only mount now because they've had two, I want to say two rate hikes even over the last 2 years that residents and people have been very vocal about with their bills going up, and so now it's just a lot of accountability surrounding it. So yeah, NIPSCO will feel the pressure of this moving forward.
That's right. Well, Javante, we surely appreciate it, man, and hopefully folks can do all they can to get their lives back together.
Thank you.
All right, folks, let's talk about the racism in the Georgia U.S. Senate race. A former staffer, former Georgia Republican Congressman Mike Collins, posted KKK and Nazi images on social media depicting a swastika and a KKK-style robe. Yeah, y'all, this is actually real. 24-year-old Preston Para, who interned in Collins' congressional office in 2024 and later worked as a contractor for the Congress's Political Action Committee, posted the pictures in June and July. Para's work with the PAC ended in 2025, which was before Collins launched his bid for the United States Senate. The pictures are among other controversial actions and rhetoric from Collins' former staffers, associates, and even his own son. A number of people in Collins' circle have been accused of having ties to white nationalists or of making racist or anti-Semitic comments. Even Collins' own social media has drawn scrutiny. Para's other posts included racial slurs and references to white power. In one post, he responds to journalist Lucy Campbell from The Guardian. Hi, Preston. I'm a journalist for The Guardian. I'm reaching out regarding the report in The Washington Post concerning your sharing of images online of yourself in the KKK robes and one in the swastika, along with others. I'm writing about this today, and I'd like to give you an opportunity to respond to these reports. If you're willing to provide a comment, could you please respond to this message? He says, sure, nigga. He posted a direct message from Chauncey Alcorn, a reporter at Capital B. In the caption, he says, they're naming niggas, Chauncey. When asked about his social media activity, he told the Washington Post that many of his posts are satirical and intended to provoke. Collins is running against Democratic Senator John Ossoff in November, and trust me, Ossoff was not silent at all about this. This is what he actually had to say earlier.
Thank you for coming this morning. It is a pleasure to be back in Macon. And I had intended at this event to address the ongoing scandal of Congressman Mike Collins and his refusal to cooperate with the federal investigation into the illegal misuse of tax dollars. It had been my intention to come and address that scandal and to call on the congressman to commit to testifying in that matter. But then I saw the stunning news this morning in the Washington Post that should shock the conscience of every Georgian, confirming yet more extensive ties between Congressman Mike Collins and white nationalism and Congressman Mike Collins and neo-Nazi ideology. Let's be very clear about the facts. It's now been more than a month since CNN reported Congressman Mike Collins' extensive ties to white nationalism and neo-Nazi ideology. Since we learned that the congressman has had a neo-Nazi propagandist based on his property and doing work for the congressman's business. Then we learned last week in the Atlanta Journal-Constitution that this neo-Nazi propagandist has continued to produce neo-Nazi propagandist from Mike Collins' property up until last week. And then we learned, because some of the communications leaked from the congressman's office, that the congressman's chief of staff was briefing some of the nation's most notorious white supremacists on their efforts supporting a Holocaust denier. So let's again just review everything we knew up until this morning's reporting. We've learned that the congressman has a neo-Nazi propagandist based on his property who also works for the congressman's business. We've seen through leaked communications from the congressman's office that his staff was briefing some of the country's most notorious white supremacists on their efforts supporting a Holocaust denier. And now what did we learn this morning in the Washington Post? Yet another connection between Congressman Mike Collins and white nationalism, between Congressman Mike Collins and neo-Nazi ideology. One of the congressman's staffers posting swastikas online and depicting himself in the costume of the Ku Klux Klan. Wow. Disgraceful. Very much so. Disgraceful and disqualifying. Yet another week, yet another scandal for the bigot Congressman Mike Collins and his collapsing Senate campaign. Mike Collins needs to hold a press conference this afternoon. And resign. And he needs to release all of the communications that he continues to hide between his office and these white supremacists. Let me repeat that. Congressman Mike Collins needs to hold a press conference this afternoon, and he needs to release all of the communications between his office and these white supremacists. It is the year 2026 in the state of Georgia. It's not 1935. It's not 1958. It's the year 2026, and we have a sitting member of Congress and a candidate for the United States Senate with extensive ties to white nationalism and neo-Nazi ideology, new ties released even this morning, who still refuses to release his own office's communications with some of the nation's most notorious white supremacists. And for the reporters in attendance today, please remember that this is not mere allegation. This is CNN reporting. This is leaked transcripts of communications between the congressman's office and white supremacists. This is the Atlanta Journal-Constitution's reporting. These are confirmed facts. So let me again be very clear about the message today, and then we'll open this up for members of the press for your questions on this or any subject. This morning's news should shock not just the entire state of Georgia, but the entire country. Yet more evidence of a sitting congressman's extensive ties to white nationalism and neo-Nazi ideology. This time it's swastikas and the costume of the Ku Klux Klan. Unacceptable and disqualifying. And today, not tomorrow, not this weekend, but today, Congressman Mike Collins needs to address the press and the public, and he needs to release every single communication between his office and some of the nation's most notorious white supremacists. Thank you again for joining me and looking forward to your questions.
Bottom line here, Zachary, white nationalists, white supremacists, those are Republican voters.
They are Republican voters. Listen, Mike Collins has told the people of Georgia at every single turn who he is and who he has always been. There is no option in the state of Georgia for any single person of color, for any single person who is Jewish, who is Muslim, who is a real, genuine Christian and believer and follower of Jesus Christ, of who they have to vote for in November, on November 3rd, and leading up to it. There is no other choice. Mike Collins has surrounded himself with white supremacists and racists, with members and people who are deeply invested in white supremacy, white nationalism, white fascism, and the Ku Klux Klan continuously. This is absolutely ridiculous what Preston Power did. This young man, he claims to be Italian. Some people say that he's Latino. Some people say that this man is gay, and he is devoutly, staunchly embedded in white supremacy. It's mind-boggling, the level of self-hatred that these young people are being infested and infected with. And the only way to break it, the only way to stop it, is for us to win in November and begin to implement real, continuous, and steady change for the future of Georgia and this country. And the only way we can do that is voting for Jon Ossoff. And I hope you vote for Keisha Lynn's Bottoms too, shit.
Lisa.
Yes, I'm going to add, you ain't even got to be a Christian to be a good person. I'm not a Christian. You have Muslims, they're not Christians. You have Jewish people, they're not Christians. You just have to be a good person. How about that? So I want to add to that. When I saw that disgusting, those text messages and all of that mess, I was like, listen, if Mike Collins didn't even attempt to denounce what this dude Preston was writing and saying and blurting out, then that tells me he doesn't want to do it. Was anybody surprised? So my parents always raised me, birds of a feather flock together. So my question is you is or is you ain't a white supremacist, Mr. Collins? Because if you were not, you wouldn't be hiding and covering up and not, like you said, like he said, going out there saying, I'm going to do this press conference to denounce these things, true transparency. So I have zero trust for this man as a politician, no matter what seat he's going for or what seat he's in. I don't want people like that in office. Now, that might be kind of hard. We're talking about in the Trump era, in the MAGA era, in this administration. But I have to know that somewhere out there over the rainbow, we have to appeal to individuals who have to know this cannot work. Because even if you're not Black or you're not Jewish, you know that the person making your coffee could be anybody. So I don't want to be somewhere when somebody's making my coffee and I'm demoralizing them and demeaning them. At some level, we all have to connect. So if you can't be the connector, if you can't have transparency about where you stand, then you should stand nowhere. If I were those folks down there, please do not promote, support, or do anything with Collins or anybody in that camp, because it's really criminal to me.
Greg?
Yeah, whites going white supremacists going white supremacists. Jon Ossoff is putting on a clinic on how you campaign. I think if this country survives, and that's a very big if, given what Bozo is doing now with these ridiculous coloring book pieces of paper he's signing, his executive orders, none of them have the force of law. But what they do have the force of is turning global public opinion and other countries against the United States of America. But if this country survives, I think we might look back at the election of 2020 as a pivotal moment in its survival. And I'm talking specifically about the state of Georgia, which is why they pushed everything to the table and tried to get that vote overturned in Georgia. Jon Ossoff it has a political instinct that, frankly, Speaker Jeffries and Chuck Schumer and them lack. He knows how to tap into decency, into our common humanity, and to tap into it in a way that connects to, quite frankly, overtures of the Black freedom struggle. Of course, we know he worked for John Lewis. What we saw there, and I don't want us to miss what Speaker Jeffries, maybe soon to be Speaker, we'll see, because I agree with you. Everybody needs to shut the F up, including Speaker, so-called, maybe one day Speaker Jeffries. We don't need to miss what he said about the victory they had in the Fourth Circuit. In the Fourth Circuit, what the white nationalists were trying to do is get the same advertising rate through the FCC that individual candidates get. They wanted to get it for political parties. And in a 2-1 vote, there will be appeal to the rocket docket. We'll see what John Roberts and the MAGA 6 do. The Fourth Circuit said you can't have the same rate for buying advertising that individual candidates do, because the rate for the political parties is 4 to 5 times more. Why is that important? Jon Ossoff reported in his last reporting about $42.5 million cash on hand, compared to about $2 million for Mike Collins. I think they have come to the point in the white nationalists in Georgia that they just about conceded that race. They haven't conceded yet, but what we're talking about now, yeah, that may help, that may not help, but let's keep our eye on the ball. Ossoff is consolidating his base. Ossoff is getting other voters who perhaps will now take a second look at him, and he's doing it through shrewd political campaigning and a political instinct and talent that knows how to hit them in the soft parts. This man, just a week and a half ago, mentions the name Natalie, and the whole white nationalist world goes berserk. He knows how to triangulate, finally. While we saw there a man standing on moral authority without going too far, we're also, I think, witnessing in Georgia something that can be replicated in North Carolina, Mississippi, Louisiana, and the Democratic Party is completely unwilling to invest in those states because it is a soft white nationalist party. That leaves the investment, whether it be Black Lives Matter, whether it be T in Tennessee, whether it be Tequila Johnson and them in Tennessee, all those people you interviewed in Montgomery at the All Roads Lead to the South rally, it is now going to be up to the people to ignore the political party, do the organizing necessary to bring these voters in and get these elections done. I think not only have we not heard the last of John Ossoff as a senator, we might be looking at somebody who's going to be a strong candidate for the presidency because he has an instinct for how to move these things forward in a way that brings people together. At least that's what I think.
All right, folks, hold tight 1 second. When we come back, we will talk to an organization who believes that a black man who died 16 years ago was actually lynched. That's coming up next. Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Sun Network. Support the work that we do. Join our Bring the Funk fan club. If you want to contribute, be a Cash App, use a Stripe QR code. You see it right here. It's also a credit card. Checks and money order, make it payable. Roland Martin Unfiltered. P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. PayPal's R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo RM Unfiltered. Zelle. Roland at RolandSMartin.com. Roland at RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Back in a moment. All right, folks, let me get personal for a second. My mom had questions about her Medicare, so she called Chapter, a Medicare advisory company, and she texted me right after saying it's a great benefit. It was easy. A real person walked her through the whole thing, and now she understands better what's going on. But it's not just her. A woman in Yonkers wrote in saying the process was so simple, the enrollment was easy, and she was so glad she called. Then there's Marilyn, 90 years old, in Florida, living on Social Security. Her premium climbed every single year north of $400 a month for coverage she could barely afford anymore. So what does she do? She called Chapter. They found her the same top-tier coverage for hundreds of dollars less. 90 years old, and finally somebody in her corner. I hear stories like that again and again from our community. The Medicare system was not built to work for you. Too much fine print, too many plans. Yet Chapter's advisors are independent and honest, the only Medicare advisors that compare every plan nationwide. They're focused on one thing, what actually works for you. If you're already in the right plan, they'll tell you. No games, and people who switched with Chapter saved an average of $1,100 a year. All it takes is 20 minutes. You talk to a real person, and it's completely free help. So call Chapter at 724-264-8281, 724-264-8281. That's Chapter.
Let me ask you a question. Why do so many people seem to think they know black men so well? What they think we want, what they think we need. Hell, they even tried to tell us why and how we voted, but never had a conversation with us. Never asked us how we felt, what brings us joy, what makes us angry, what makes us scared. How do we live? That's what this show is about. No translation, because we don't need anybody speaking for us. We can speak for ourselves. This will be a show where we bring brothers on that you don't see on every other talk show. Nope. Brothers that are doing work in local communities with black men for black communities. We're going to hear each other and try to understand so perhaps we can move forward together. No translation, because we don't need anybody speaking for us. Nope. What we need is each other. No translation, right here on the Black Star Network. Check it out.
My name is Bill Duke, and you're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
In 2010, 26-year-old Frederick Jermaine Carter was found hanging from an oak tree near Greenwood, Mississippi. For more than 15 years, his family believed his death had not been properly investigated. Earlier this year, the civil rights organization JULIAN released the Crimson Record, which identified possible lynching cases across 7 states: Georgia, Texas, Louisiana, Florida, Tennessee, Alabama, and Mississippi. The report documented 70 instances of modern-day lynchings in these 7 states from 2000 to 2025. Carter's case was included in the report, and the organization obtained the results of an independent autopsy. The findings of the autopsy confirmed that Carter was lynched. Jill Collin Jefferson, the founder of JULIAN, joins us now. Jill, glad to have you here. Okay, So
Thank you for having me, Roland.
when you say the findings of the autopsy confirmed that he was lynched, how so?
The findings are very clear. First, there was multiple blunt force trauma to his head, to his trunk, his torso, to his extremities. The manner of death is homicide, as listed, and the medical examiner says that he believes that he was killed and then hung from the tree to cover up the homicide. And so I saw photos of his body. I'll tell you, Roland, it's impossible that Mississippi's medical examiner didn't see that. They had to have seen those bruises. They could not have missed those bruises all over his body. But the first autopsy doesn't mention any of that. And so this is kind of what we're dealing with in Mississippi's medical examiner system. But there were obvious signs that he'd been beaten. He had a black eye. He had a gash on his back thigh. There was a contusion near his groin. There were marks on his rib cage and on his legs. This is a case where this young black man was found in a predominantly white area in North Greenwood. So just to set the context. And this is a case that suddenly out of nowhere just disappeared and nobody heard anything about it anymore. And we need to ask why. Somebody is trying to hide something here, and somebody is trying to hide someone.
This was the original Associated Press story. Preliminary autopsy results indicate a black man found hanging from a tree in Mississippi killed himself, and authorities said Tuesday there's no validity to an NAACP leader's allegation that someone was involved. They said that Frederick Jermaine Carter had a history of mental illness and suicide attempts. It says that Lafleur County Sheriff Ricky Banks and Lafleur County Coroner Deborah Sanders said that the autopsy's preliminary finding of suicide is consistent with what they saw at the scene.
That's incredibly interesting because what we see in those photos of what is in this medical examiner's report and what I have gathered from our internal investigation is that it was obvious to authorities that this was not a suicide, but it just got swept under the rug. And
now,
so, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
But Mississippi, you have to understand the way that the state operates, and who's pulling the strings. And so,
but even though the coroner, Deborah Sanders, is black?
The coroner, okay, let me explain something about coroners.
Yeah, go ahead.
Coroners in Mississippi are usually not medical professionals. I don't know if she was or not, but usually a coroner in Mississippi is like a funeral home director. And the standards for being a coroner in Mississippi are incredibly low. All you have to have is a high school education or equivalent and pass a test. So that's part of the problem. They do not have the training usually to make these determinations. And so what you also have in this system, there have been books written about Mississippi's medical examiner system. It goes beyond the coroner. It goes to the methods that are used in the medical examiner's office. This same medical examiner has had issues in other cases, and the medical examiner before him was infamous because of his methods. And so this is a story that just keeps repeating itself. This is how it works in Mississippi. This is what it is. And I've seen enough of these cases across the nation and worked enough and solved enough to see where exactly they messed up and what went wrong, and that they are trying to hide this.
Questions from the panel. I'll start with you, Greg.
Thank you, Roland. And thank you. I mean, not only for this work, but the broader arc of your work. Do you mind perhaps giving us a few words on your work through JULIAN with the Crimson Record and how this case fits a much larger pattern that you've spent a great deal of time kind of investigating and making available to us to be able to see what you see? And thank you in advance.
Of course. Thank you for your question. So, a Crimson Record and what JULIAN does, one of our big program areas is combating terror, which involves modern day lynchings. We investigate, document, solve, litigate modern day lynchings. And in that work, we spent almost 2 years researching, investigating modern day lynchings across 7 southern states. The patterns that we saw that lynchings increased during the first Trump term and that they have increased since he started his second term. We've also found significant patterns in certain states, like in Mississippi. We found that in a certain county, a Black man would go missing around the same day, around the same month, day every year. And that was really suspicious. We found something similar in Selma. We saw immigrant deaths in Texas along the border. The patterns that we saw indicate the way that these police handle these cases nationally. They come to these incredibly fast assumptions, like what Roland read about what the original report said. Just because someone had a mental issue before some episode, they automatically assume this person's suicidal. They don't even look any further. You need to conduct a psychological autopsy to actually do that, to tell that. And you need a psychologist to do that. And that wasn't done. And so what happens in these cases and in this trend, and where this case stands in this trend, is that over the past 25 years, these cases have only increased, and the pattern has become pretty much institutionalized. Now it's not even questioned that when police don't follow proper procedure in these cases. And the truth is that the police do not have procedures in these cases. But modern day lynching, investigating a lynching is different than investigating a hate crime. It is different than investigating a police killing. It is its own thing, and it has a very specific strategy and different goals. And so the police need to be trained in this. And what we've seen in Frederick's case and the cases after is that these cases were just swept under the rug. But in Frederick's case, I do believe it was more deliberate.
Zachary.
Jill, again, just echoing Dr. Carr, thank you for your work. This is amazing. As a Mississippi native, born and raised in Kemper County, grew up in a trailer on a dirt road, seeing that we have freedom fighters and those who are still seeking justice in my native land is a gift. We are living through an unprecedented time. We just saw last month at the National Urban League where Attorney Ben Crump led a press conference and talked about the death of Nolan Xavier Wells, the death of Daniel Irving, the death of Tyler Smith, and the circumstances surrounding those deaths and all the questions that exist. And then now to see that we have this situation coming back up from Carter being brought back to the forefront, it's making me think that there are going to be so many other cases of Black lives lost, taken away through racial violence that didn't get justice as we are continuing to push and fight. For those out there who know someone or they suspect someone or they fear someone that they loved has been the victim of racial violence in this country that have not yet received justice, what can they do to move towards that for their lost loved ones?
Well, what they can do is they can contact us. we investigate these cases. We've been hearing about multiple new cases every week, especially since this report has come out. They should contact us and we will work with them to evaluate what evidence they have, to see what happened to this person, to basically put our team at their disposal. We have incredible investigators with FBI experience. We have really amazing attorneys and people and policy people. And so in this situation, they should contact us, JULIAN. This is what we do. And we will advocate for them. We're going to be advocating to get Frederick's case reopened. And one thing I will say, you mentioned you're from Kemper County. Kemper County is the site of another modern day lynching. Nick Naylor in 2003 was found hanging from a tree in Kemper County, Mississippi. We also know that that was a lynching. And that is a case where the family has never gotten justice.
Lisa.
Yep. Thank you for the work you're doing. I didn't realize how triggered I was when I learned about, Frederick's story and many other hangings that have happened until I was recently, of course I hear about them, you get desensitized. I was recently in Georgia at NABJ, but I was visiting family and we're driving to the Durden Ranch, like 69 acres. I'm thinking, okay, it's gonna be close to the city, but as we drove, we're on this road, we see all these trees and there's no street lights, there's no sidewalks. I'm from the city. I literally started screaming, Daphne, we got to get the hell out of here. Daphne, we got to get the hell out of here. It was dark. I wanted to get the hell out of there. I was having anxiety attacks because I'm thinking if the cop stops us, we're in trouble. So I was scared of being shot. I was scared of being hanged. I didn't really realize it until I literally saw like no man's land to me. So I thought that what's happening, I'm thinking all of these stories about these hangings was in my body. So, and I want to say this really quickly before I ask you my question. In my other life, before I was a producer and a TV personality, I was a pharmaceutical rep for 4 years. And I want to just dispel something, which is bullshit. Most people who are mentally ill do not kill themselves. That's the go-to gaslighting when they want to poo-poo away what really happened. Just wanted to throw that out there. I am a trained pharmaceutical expert. Moving on. So can you share with me what your next steps are, if you have any, in demanding accountability? Because I would just love for this to be resolved and the culprit gets brought to justice.
Yeah. So what I can tell you is that we are running our own independent investigation with our team of investigators. What we are also going to be doing, and we've already started doing, is contacting the local authorities in LaFleur County. This case was under the jurisdiction of the LaFleur County Sheriff's Department, and it's a new sheriff. It's not the same person who was there 15 years ago. And so hopefully this new person will want to do the right thing and want to help this family get justice. But there needs to be an investigation done by them, and we should work together on this. That is the next step, figuring out what happened, figuring out who did this to him, rather. That is the next step here, and then getting justice for him. And then beyond that, in all of these cases, we've drafted an amendment to the Emmett Till Anti-Lynching Act that really needs to be passed in Congress. And that would help a lot with solving these cases, with preventing these cases. What we also are doing is that we have so many cases that we're working on right now. And we learn something from each case that informs another case, another lynching case. And so what we're going to keep doing is studying and documenting and investigating. And in terms of overall, what we are working to do is establish this nation's first architecture to dismantle and stop lynchings. This should have been created 100 years ago, but it wasn't. And so what we are doing is we are creating that with rapid response, with organizers, with trained investigators, with forensic attorneys, with forensic psychologists, medical pathologists. Like all of this, we're putting all of these amazing resources together that we've garnered over the last few years, and this expertise. And we are going to create this architecture to stop this from ever happening again.
All right.
Well,
Jill Collins Jefferson, founder of JULIAN. We appreciate it. Thanks a lot for your work.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks so very much. Folks, on August 10th, a 7.4 magnitude earthquake struck Colombia, causing the deaths of more than 300 people, injuries to more than 4,400, the destruction of more than 26,000 homes across 15 cities. In response to the disaster, a group of members from Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated living in Colombia began an emergency relief drive to support families and communities affected by the earthquake. The group, known as Alphas in Colombia, is collecting supplies you can help purchase, creating from a specifically created Amazon wish list, and has set up a GoFundMe for this campaign. Joining us now, Jarvis Houston and Alex Jean from Alphas in Colombia. Brothers, glad to have y'all here. First of all, how many Alphas are there in Colombia?
Hey, Brother Martin. We have about 15 alphas that live in Colombia. We're a small group, but as you know, first of all, service of all, we shall transcend all. We're a mighty group of our 15, and we cover about 8 cities in Colombia, all of our members.
And how have the brothers been impacted, Alex? Have any of them lost homes?
To the best of my knowledge, no brothers have lost homes. But brothers were directly affected because, as you know, we are part of these communities. These are our friends, our neighbors. We are deeply hurt and working our efforts.
Actually, your audio is breaking up there. So, guys, let me know we have that fixed. Let me ask that question to Jarvis. Any brothers lose their homes in Colombia?
No brothers have lost their homes, but unfortunately, almost 13,000 homes have been destroyed, and almost 130,000 people have been affected, 4,000 people have been injured, and 300 people have unfortunately passed away because of the earthquake. And it's going to take years for Colombia to rebuild after this very horrific event.
And so what has been the response since y'all put the call out for assistance?
The response has been wonderful. In our first day of organizing our earthquake relief fund, we collected over 200 items. Now we have, as you can see, we have masks, we have first aid kits, we have items now that we plan to bring. So we're organizing a group of over 20 people, Alphas, Qs, Kappas, and the D9, Colombians, people from the United States. We're all going to Cali, Colombia, on September 19th to our nonprofit partners, and also to make sure that supplies goes to the families that need it the most. And those are the communities of Chocó, and those are the communities of Buenaventura. Both communities, Chocó and Colombia, have faced years of inequality, similar to Gary, Indiana, without power, similar to Flint, Michigan, East St. Louis, and so many other African-American communities. We have Afro-Colombians here suffering today in Chocó, Buenaventura, and Cali, and that's where we go in there on the ground to get the work done, to get the supplies to the people who need it the most. And that's a part of an 8-month-old who's Afro-Colombia and Afro-American. We have to help these families and these kids. It's babies without formula, it's babies without Pampers, it's babies without food, and so many people are suffering. As I said before, 14,000 homes have been completely destroyed. So we're here to provide relief as much as possible, and this is solidarity. The solidarity turned into true action, service of all.
Alex, again, what are you asking folks to do to contribute, and what do you need?
So what we're asking for is people to show up. The thing is people show up. That's what we got this trip happening in September. We want people to come, and if they can volunteer their time, because I think time is the most important thing that you can give. It's a valuable thing that we can give. But for those people who can't travel, who can't make the trip out, we have the Amazon wish list for people to make donations. GoFundMe to set up.
All right, then, folks, pull up the flyer as well as the GoFundMe. Folks, if you want to say it says Colombia needs us. Alphas in Colombia, you see the QR codes right here where you can donate money and purchase supplies. Again, the QR code right there as well. Plus, they also have a GoFundMe campaign. Jarvis and Alex, I certainly appreciate it. And thanks a bunch. And again, Alphas are always there in need.
Thank you, Brother Martin, for giving us this opportunity.
All right.
And please share and support our campaign. Thank you.
All right, we got it. Certainly appreciate it. Thank you so very much. All right, y'all, our final story. We had Minnesota Attorney General Keith Ellison on the show other day talking about the drama in Texas, where Texas Governor Greg Abbott is doing all he can to protect a federal officer who literally lied about shooting a man, just straight up lied. So this man fled to Texas, and Texas refused to actually extradite the man. Well, a Texas judge has weighed in, siding with the state. Again, this is beyond it's beyond ridiculous. Clearly you had a situation where Minnesota has extradited folks to Texas, and Texas has extradited others. But when you have a governor who's in a tight campaign race, he's doing all he can to hype up his supporters, and that's exactly what has gone on in Texas. And so what's crazy, so first of all, it took place on yesterday. First of all, let's deal with who this individual is, okay? So this individual, Christian Castro, was released today after spending nearly 3 months in jail. He was arrested after allegedly shooting Julio Cesar Sosa Celis in the leg during an ICE operation in January. He lied about the crime. On Wednesday, a Trump-appointed U.S. District Judge, Fernando Rodriguez Jr., said he did not have jurisdiction to overrule the extradition block. You're a federal judge. This is another state. It was reiterated that Castro could not be held beyond Texas's 90-day limit while awaiting extradition, so he was released. Minnesota officials also raised concerns that Castro could flee to Mexico, citing calls he allegedly made from jail discussing moving there. For now, Castro is free, while the Minnesota charges, including 4 counts of second-degree assault and 1 count of falsely reporting a crime, remain. This is what Keith Ellison said. I'm very disturbed to learn of Christian Castro's release from a Texas jail today. He is charged with 4 serious felonies in Minnesota for his actions during Operation Metro Surge and as a fugitive from justice by every definition. Minnesota quickly and properly submitted an extradition request that Governor Abbott ignored, then offered bogus excuses for not signing that have no basis in law or Supreme Court precedent. In a social media post yesterday, he wasted no time in publicly revealing his political motivations for not signing. When we asked for emergency relief, the court found yesterday that our request was not ripe and came too early in the process. Yet today, Castro has been released. Federal law, the laws of every state, and the U.S. Constitution require states to extradite fugitives, period. This is not politics. This is not a game. There are traumatized victims in Minnesota awaiting accountability and justice. But Greg Abbott is playing the political game of turning Texas into a sanctuary state for accused felons and violent criminals. This hurts the victims of crime and hurts the residents of Texas. Christian Castro is a fugitive from justice who still must answer for his crimes in Minnesota. He should turn himself today. He should turn himself in today to face them. In the meantime, we will continue our lawsuit to force Abbott to do his legal and constitutional duty. I will never stop pursuing Castro wherever he may be to make him face justice in Minnesota. Abbott is a joke, Zachary, but this is who MAGA is. It's all about protecting, law enforcement who they like to see deport folks, but then they claim they want to stand up for law enforcement.
And they're not doing it. I'm heartbroken that this man is out, possibly going to, they suspect he could even attempt to flee. And I'm even more disappointed in the fact that since Secretary Noem is gone and now Secretary Markwayne Mullin is there, the mainstream media is not talking about at the same level, the level of terrorism, domestic terrorism being inflicted on the American people by ICE under Markwayne Mullin. The entire strategy they've implemented under the Department of Homeland Security and ICE has shifted and changed. And it's all about being way more covert, way more secretive, way more subtle, but still having the exact same impact. About 2,000 people per day being arrested, and being detained, being apprehended, being pulled from their lives, being pulled from the fabric of their family and from the fabric of this country. That is still happening. That's still ongoing. So I'm happy to see this finally breaking through to make the news, because maybe that's going to turn the attention back to the terrorism that these people are doing and the harm and damage they're doing to the American people. That's the only possible good thing that's coming. And it's really fucked up that we aren't going to get justice for the people that have been harm, that the lives that have been lost currently. But I want to emphasize to your audience, did we expect justice under a Trump administration or under a Trump-led DOJ or any Trump-led department? That's why every election matters so damn much, and why it's so important in November to ensure that we have changes happen in the House and prayerfully, God, the Senate.
But what's crazy here, Lisa, is that the Department of Homeland Security admitted they lied and they withdrew the charges. He ain't even getting backed by the Department of Homeland Security.
I mean, Roland, when I heard about this story, I was scratching my head like, the fact that he hasn't been extradited screams, the rules are for thee and not for me. Oh, you can have a sanctuary state for thee and not for me? I mean, the hypocrisy is loud and clear. And then speaking about the judge, I'm thinking, well, damn, judge, you say anything nowadays? Aren't you worried about your law license looking crazy? People don't even care. They're so stuck on these MAGA talking points, these MAGA moves, these MAGA directives, if you will, that they really are doing things in plain sight with impunity. What the brother said, I'm glad at least we're having a conversation about it. So I don't know what the ending is, but I think that if we keep amplifying it, his ass is gonna get out of here. He's gonna get found guilty. He's gotta go. But what I do know is, the premeditated nature of what's happening. You're shooting through a door. It's not like the person was out. You're shooting through a door. There's nothing that could prove that you needed to shoot through a door. What did you see on the other side of the door? There was a door. Right. So it's clear he meant to do what he did. To me, it's attempted murder.
Well, first of all, they also lied, Greg. I mean, they lied. And it took them, Greg, it didn't take them long to pull the video to say, yeah, they lied. And again, when DHS abandons you, your ass guilty.
I mean, this is the thing. The nasty little judge, Fernando Rodriguez Jr., was appointed by Bozo to the U.S. District Court for the Southern District of Texas in 2018. So the fix was in. They knew that. They knew that a piece of a man as a judge, Rodriguez, would do his job. People often refer to Homeland Security and ICE. They say they're like the brown shirts. I would like to probably push back a little bit. Unlike Hitler's brown shirts, unlike the Sturmbataillon, the brown shirts of Nazi Germany, these racist killers don't wear uniforms and they hide their faces. They're pieces of men. This piece of a man, Castro, unlike the brown shirts, see, the brown shirts would come in and announce very loudly, we're here and we're here to hurt you. A piece of a man like Castro and his funky little friends who cover their faces with cloths, dress like civilians. And their method is, we could be anywhere at any time and we will harm you and then melt back into the protection and the protecting arms of our friends. Yes, he was too extreme in this moment for them, but Bozo, in assembling this private army, and make no mistake about it, Bozo has vitriol, he's a racist, he's all of the things, but this is Stephen Miller. Stephen Miller and his racist fever dream that somehow he can reverse engineer live births, because of the people in this country under 18, the vast majority of those people are not white. So it's coming, Stephen. You can't deport that many people. But Stephen Miller has taken now, dropping all pretense to the idea that, well, we should just kill with reckless abandon. We should kill with reckless abandon, throw as many people out as we can, pay off some West African countries, and maybe even strong-arm the Haitians and get as many people out here as possible, all with the idea of, wait, what is the idea? There's no end game for this. The violence is the point, because you can't reverse demographics. This is the environment in which somebody like Castro acts with impunity, thinks he will be protected, and he was shielded by a punk-ass governor like Greg Abbott, whose political back can be broke in Texas fairly easily. Tallarico is giving echoes of Ossoff, and guess what? Hinojosa should be the governor of Texas. We at this moment have to make a decision, because we're at a tipping point now. This private army is going to roam this country in disguise until we decide enough is enough. And we can decide enough is enough. Texas, it's time to get rid of Greg Abbott, and you can handle that at the ballot box.
Folks, tomorrow is the anniversary of the March in Washington for Jobs and Freedom. Reverend Al Sharpton is National Action Network, along with the Drum Major Initiative of MLK III, will be actually sponsoring the initiative. This is the website. If you go to marchonwashington2026.com, they will be assembling in the nation's capital. We will be, of course, carrying their live stream of the march. We'll be starting tomorrow. We'll be gathering at 8 a.m. Program begins at 9 a.m. And again, we'll be streaming it right here on the Black Star Network as well. The thing here that we've been talking about this here, and that is this here. What really is needed, and we just have to confront this, there has to be overwhelming force at the polls.
Yep.
Earlier, Lisa said, vote like it was 2008 with Obama. No. Turn out like black folks in South Africa did for Nelson Mandela. Turn out like black folks did after the 1965 Voting Rights Act. When we were in Mound Bayou, Mississippi, there's a photo there in their makeshift museum in the school there, where there's a photo where they said there was a near riot. Excuse me. There was a near riot over getting voter registration forms. Okay, let me say this again. There was a near riot because folks were fighting to grab the voter registration forms. If you go to the National Civil Rights Museum, formerly the Lorraine Motel in Memphis, there's a sign, and I swore I took a picture of it, and I gotta find it. And the sign says, it was from a black girl, all I want for my 18th birthday is a voter registration card. We continue to talk about what the power of the vote does. Did y'all find that clip from that black actor who was saying that crazy stuff? Did y'all find it? Y'all, it was, this brother played in South Central. He's played in some other different movies. He was going off on Kamala Harris. He was talking about how he ain't voted in 30 years. And oh no, voting, it ain't about us, it's about them. Do y'all know how stupid that is? We are witnesses to what happens when hardcore white conservatives vote. They voted for this MAGA extreme court. Sure did. They turned out for Project 2025. If somebody is telling you, and I'll say this here, and Lisa, Zachary, Greg, maybe y'all can let me know. I ain't never seen white people. I haven't seen white folks, to the degree I see it with some black folks, say, voting don't matter, voting ain't gonna accomplish nothing, voting ain't gonna do nothing, that's just a waste of your time.
Yep. Never.
If you are black and somebody says that, that's somebody who should never be your friend. In fact, I told this story, Lisa, I'm gonna start with you. I told this story. I was at a friend's house. And there's some dude, I saw there's some dude named Big Gip. I ain't never heard of him. And he was going on and on saying the same thing. That voting stuff don't matter. That's folk you should never, ever listen to. At least I was in Birmingham. And this brother was talking about Kamala. And he was talking about voting. Mm-hmm. And then he actually said, well, you know, I didn't actually vote. I said, well, shit. I said, you might as well get your ass up. I said, I ain't even talking to you. I literally did not want to hear, I didn't want to hear a critique he had to say about nothing. Mm-hmm. Because if you check out of a process, then what the hell are you commenting on the process for?
I said it earlier today, but I'll add some more content to that. I had a friend, I'm not going to name her name because we still friends, so I don't know, Roland. I might need to check myself, and I might like a...
Wouldn't be my damn friend.
Damn, man, I've been knowing her for a long... Damn.
I don't give a damn. I'm telling you right now, if you a sister and the man you with, his ass ain't voting, tell him you ain't getting no sex, you ain't getting no food, you ain't laying up in my AC. No.
I'm in menopause, so
I can't tolerate this because the sister you talked about, now her ass ain't got no job. Now she's complaining, and it's like, so you wanted the 600,000 black women who got laid off, 500,000 black men got laid up. Go ahead, make your comment.
Check it out, Roland. I didn't have this part because I didn't know if I had time. Literally, we're going hard in the paint. And she was like, well, they're all the same. The Republicans and the Democrats are all the same. All the presidents are the same. So I said to her, Jane Doe, I'm just going to, for shits and giggles, let's just say that. I said, but right now, I don't agree with you. There's no such person in the history of your life that you've ever seen like Donald Trump. You have never seen a person like that in your lifetime. You cannot compare Donald Trump to any other president, even dumbass Reagan, I was in college at the time, or the Bush or baby Bush. You've never seen somebody of this magnitude of sickness. You've not seen it. I said, so even if I wanted to give you a pass on Reagan, you cannot tell me that what you see in Donald Trump, it's like all the other presidents. So I said, miss me with the bullshit. Now, we still remain friends, but I had to tell her off. She calmed down. She hung the hell up. I'm like, okay, girl, call back when you want. But I got to rethink that. But she didn't vote. So now she's, the gas prices and the food and okay, girl. Done.
Right. Greg, I was talking to a coach at Howard University. We were talking about voting the election, and he said, yeah, I've had players and students at Howard say my vote don't matter. And he said he told them, do you understand the federal designation of Howard University? He said,
no.
He said, do you understand where the bulk of Howard's money come from? He said, do you understand? And he said, here are students at Howard University who are saying they ain't voting and not even realize that the very funding of your school is coming from the same government and you ain't voting.
Well, I don't want to, as somebody who teaches the first year student athletes every summer, as somebody who's been there for 27 years, I don't want to speculate as to what percentage of students would hold that opinion or who the coach was talking to. But I can assure you that the 350 students I taught today in my 3 classes and my 25 or so law students I teach on Wednesday nights don't have that opinion. And then if 1 or 2 of them were to express that opinion, they would very quickly be engaged by their classmates in ways that would help them understand. That notwithstanding, actually, I think it ties very well together. We can spend our time trying to argue with those who would hold that opinion either way, because that's not an opinion based on facts or information, but one based on probably being a victim of social media blitzes and disinformation campaigns, as you have said many times, as Reese has talked about all the time. I would rather take that energy and engage with those who have yet been touched. Again, the Black Voters Matter strategy, I think, is best. We can win without the ignorant. No, I'm sorry. Let me not say that, because ignorance is just not knowing yet. We can win without the stupid. I believe, and I think we all would believe, that most people will respond to better information by correcting and changing their behavior. And I think that's really what we're up against. I agree with William Barber. I agree with our friend, Brother Gary in Louisiana. I think what we need to do is get out there and engage with people who have not yet been engaged.
Yep.
We're seeing it work, aren't we? You talked to James Tallarico, you talked to John Ossoff, and I'm just keep mentioning them because unlike a Roy Cooper trying to triangulate, can we have a moderate Dem? It really doesn't matter what your politics is. If you engage with people, we can get enough people in elected office to begin to then work out what we need to work out on the other side. But you've been doing it. That's why you get in the Row-Mobile and go everywhere all the time. And I know you're gearing up to do it again in the next couple of months.
Yeah. I'm going to say it again, y'all. I said it before. The moment that we're living in right now, I don't give a damn about nobody talking about 2028. I don't care about 2027. This is what I know. There's a gubernatorial race in Georgia. Keisha Lance Bottoms against a billionaire Republican. That billionaire Republican is straight MAGA. He spent $100 million to get the nomination. She's raised since May 2025. Keisha Lance Bottoms has raised, give me 1 second, since May 6th, $5.7 million. But votes still beat money. Votes beat bucks. So if folks are saying, well, where's she at? You don't have to actually wait on Keisha Lance Bottoms to mobilize and organize your house, your family, your street, your block, your neighborhood, your city, your county, your state.
That's right.
Gubernatorial races in Texas. Gina Hinojosa versus Greg Abbott. U.S. Senate races. Their House races. DA races, state rep, state senate, judicial races. I can go on and on and on. The people who understand power, they vote. And I'm going to play it for you again. If you are one of those folks who like, yeah, man, I ain't sitting there wasting my time with vote. Oh, Paul Weyrich is in hell rejoicing. He's rejoicing because you are exactly who he loves, who he loved. You are exactly the kind of person who he admired because he made it clear in 1980. And this is the co-founder of the Heritage Foundation, the architects of Project 2025. This is the co-founder of the Moral Majority, which led to Reagan and George H.W. Bush and George W. Bush and the modern-day Republican Party. This is Paul Weyrich, a white man without a Klan's hood, saying, I don't want none of y'all to vote.
Now, many of our Christians have what I call the goo-goo syndrome. Good government. They want everybody to vote. I don't want everybody to vote. Elections are not won by a majority of people. They never have been from the beginning of our country, and they are not now. As a matter of fact, our leverage in the elections, quite candidly, goes up as the voting populace goes down.
He said it. If y'all want him to burn further in hell, vote in a massive way. It's as simple as that. Let me thank Zachary. Let me thank Lisa. Let me thank Greg for being on today's show. I certainly appreciate it. Thank you so very much. Folks, that is it
Thank
for
you.
us. We're going to keep pressing the case because we understand the power of us communicating and talking about the issues that matter. If y'all are on YouTube, hit the like button, please. We should easily be over 1,000 likes. Don't forget, support the work that we do. We don't have these billionaire folks cutting us checks. We don't have these right-wingers cutting us $6 and $7 and $8 and $10 million checks funding our operations. Your support is vital for the work that we do. So do us a favor. You want to use Cash App, use the Stripe QR code. You see it right here. Click the Cash App button to contribute. That QR code is also for credit cards. Checks and money order make it payable to Roland Martin Unfiltered, P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. PayPal's R. Martin Unfiltered, Venmo RM Unfiltered, Zelle, Roland at RolandSMartin.com, Roland at RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Download the Black Star Network app. Apple phone, Android phone, Apple TV, Android TV, Roku, Amazon Fire TV, Samsung Smart TV. You want to get our Roland Martin Unfiltered swag? Do me a favor. Go to shopblackstarnetwork.com. All of our shirts, including that Robert Patillo flamethrower shirt, and of course, all the rest of our shirts. Don't blame me for the black woman. Folks, all of the products you see right here are on shopblackstarnetwork.com. These are all black-owned companies. All of these products are black-owned companies you see right here. And you name it, we got hats and shirts, and we got pet food, we got sauces and crossword puzzles and candles, and we got all sorts of stuff. And so please support them. Now, when you buy products with shopblackstarnetwork.com, you are also supporting the Black Star Network. And so please do that and support these black-owned companies. That's it for us. Let me shout out, of course, Jack Yates. I'm rocking Jack Yates High School. October, we have a 100th anniversary gala. That's my alma mater in H-Town. And so always showing some love to JY in the tray in Houston. All right, folks, that's it. I'll see y'all tomorrow right here, Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network.